Treasury bill is one of the instruments or investment that is available in the fixed income market. You know, Nigeria capital market is divided into two. We have the fixed income market and equity market. But Treasury bill belongs to a fixed income market because it has what is called a fixed return on investment. And Treasury bill is one of the most safest instrument or investment that is available in the Nigeria capital market. It's a short-term debt instrument. When you talk about Treasury bill, a short-term debt instrument issued by the federal government of Nigeria through the Central Bank of Nigeria in order to raise loan from the general public to finance government short-term expenditure by way of paying interest to the general public. So if you want to earn a passive income, you can actually invest in what we call the Treasury bill. Now, before you put in your money into the Nigeria Treasury bill, what are the things that you need to know? Let's look at the terms that is associated with the use of the Treasury bill. We have the principal, that is the sum money that is invested in the Treasury bill. We have the discount rate. This is the rate at which the CBN auction the Treasury bill to the general public. We have the tenor. The tenor has to do with the length of time that you can subscribe for the Treasury bill. It could be 91 days, it could be 182 days, it could be 364 days. Now we have the yield. The yield here simply means the difference between the principal and the discount rate. That is your yield. Now we also have what is called a true yield. True yield is more important than the yield, even more important than the discount rate, because true yield here in investment appraisal we call it internal rate of return. In the banking and finance you can call it effective returns. This simply means the actual money received from the investment by the investor. That's the true yield. The actual money received from the investment by the investor, that's your true yield, and it's very, very important. Now we have a withholding tax. Treasury bill is subject to a withholding tax, unlike FJ savings bond that is not subject to withholding tax. TB is subject to withholding tax and is one of the most safest means of investment that is available in the Nigeria capital market. Now, under the withholding tax, now let's talk about individual, corporate body, and foreign portfolios investors. Individual, if individual is subscribing to the Nigeria Treasury bill, you are expected to pay 10% withholding tax. A withholding tax is that type of tax that is deducted from the source. It is taken from the source of the income. Now, for the corporate body is also subject to 10% withholding tax. But if such corporate body is no profit making organization, they could be exempted from payment of withholding tax. While the foreign portfolio investors, which we call a carry traders, sometimes government could reduce the withholding tax, or sometimes they can even be exempted from payment of withholding tax in an attempt to attract foreign portfolio investment into the Nigeria capital market. Now we have a custodian fee. Now let's talk about custodian fee and what is called a custodian. When you say custodian here means a financial institution that is responsible for safekeeping and managing the investment on behalf of the investor. That's a custodian. Why the sum money, the charges that is being paid to a custodian, that is the financial institution that is managing the investment and safekeeping the investment on behalf of the investor, is what is called a custodian fee. So all this must be considered when you are subscribing for Treasury bill. I think on the 21st of May, the Central Bank of Nigeria auctioned Treasury bill. Now, the rate at which the Treasury bill was auctioned, we have the stop rate for 91 days, we have 82 days, we have 364 days Treasury bill. Now, in case of 91-day Treasury bill, the stop rate, which is the interest, is 18%. In case of 182 days, it was 20%. While in case of 364 days, it was 19.56%. Meanwhile, the last auction that was conducted, it was 19.3%. 65%. I mean 63%. Now I know somebody will be wondering what's happening. How come the interest here, the one on the 364 days, is lower compared to that of 182 days, and meanwhile this one is longer? Now there's something that happened here. Why is it like this? There is what we call the true yield, just the way I explained before. Now the true yield on let's look at it. The true yield on each of these investments for the 91 days, the true yield is 18.86%. The true yield on 182 days is 20.40%, while the true yield on 364 days was 24.31%. And the true yield is more important than the interest rates. Now, because of the fact that the true yield on 364 days Treasury bill was longer, this very 364 days Treasury bill was oversubscribed. I think it was around 1.05 trillion that was subscribed by the investors. The investors tried to lock in their capital for the Treasury bill with higher yield rate of returns, and that's exactly what happened. Now, you know, just like I said before, now I think in the month of April, the interest on 364 days was 19.63%. But this time around, the CBN, they try to reduce the interest rate, the stop rate. They try to reduce it in an attempt to trim. They are trying to trim the government, reduce the government borrowing by trimming the marginal rate of by trimming the rate of return, in an attempt not to even deepen the consumer, the investors confidence in the fixed income market. So by reducing it from 19.56 to 9.63, we have about 0.7 basis point. What they are trying to do here, government is trying to reduce the rate at which, and the CBN is trying to reduce the rate at which the government is borrowing from the public. That's why they reduce it, but the yield is high. That is why the investor, they subscribe more for 364 days when compared to 91 days and 182 days. Now, before now, the Central Bank of Nigeria, I think throughout last year, the Monetary Policy Committee, they increased the MPR on 6 occasions, and presently in year 2025 they be holding rates. I think the MPR is about 27.50%. They decided to hold rate in February. Even the monetary policy meeting that held in the month of April, they equally hold rate. It was not changed, and that's why you are seeing that the TB, the rate on the TB is now reducing, because the CBN, they don't want, before now what they were doing is tightening of the monetary policy, which we call hawkish. They be maintain hawkish in the monetary policy. But in this era that the inflation is a little bit easy in the month of April, they may likely return to what is called a dovish monetary policy. That's dovish interest rate, in which we are approaching an era in which the interest rate could be reduced. They can cut the interest rate, because throughout last year we've been increasing the monetary policy rates. Probably when the monetary policy meeting will be holding by July, we may be witnessing what is called a dovish monetary policy. So these are what you need to know when you are subscribing for Treasury bill. And don't forget, this is one of the safest means of earning passive income in the Nigeria capital market. All these simple calculations I've done, if somebody really want to go about it, you can through your Google, you can actually put in Treasury bill calculator, put any amount of money you want to invest, then you are going to have how much is exact return that you are going to have at the end of whether 91 days tenure, 182 days tenure, 364 days tenure. Until we meet again, do have a wonderful day. Thank you.